Thank you, Presiding Officer. I will give a short update on today's statistics before touching on some other issues. The number of cases reported yesterday was 1,190. That's 5% of all tests reported. And the total number of cases is now 115,566. There are currently 1,025 people in hospital. That's 20 fewer than yesterday, and 56 people in intensive care, which is 4 fewer than yesterday. And I very much regret to report that in the past 24 hours, a further 47 deaths were registered of patients who first tested positive in the previous 28 days. The total number of people who have therefore died under that daily measurement is 4,373. National Records of Scotland has also just published its weekly update that includes cases where COVID is a suspected or contributory cause of death, even if it hasn't been confirmed through a test. Today's update shows that by last Sunday, the total number of registered deaths linked to COVID under that wider definition was 6,298. 203 of these deaths were registered last week. That's 23 fewer than in the previous week. And again, I want to convey my deepest condolences to everyone who has been bereaved. I have 3 other points I want to update on very quickly. The first is the situation in relation to cross-channel trade. The news that France has lifted its ban on unaccompanied freight vehicles is welcome, but important challenges remain in clearing the backlog. As part of that, it's important that the transport of perishable goods, including seafood, is prioritised, and the Scottish Government is ready to help in any way we can, including with testing of drivers. Second point is that Public Health Scotland has just published its weekly statistical report, which includes an update on vaccinations. It shows that by Sunday, more than 56,000 people had received their first dose of the vaccine. That's a significant achievement in the short time it has been available. And the third and final point is that we will shortly publish the latest estimate of the R number. We expect that it will show the R number is still around 1 in Scotland. But that is, of course, a concern, given that it is thought that the new variant of COVID could raise the R number by 0.4. These final 2 points demonstrate where we are at present. Progress on vaccination gives us grounds for hope, but the overall state of the pandemic is a cause of concern. Our immediate priority has to be to get through these next few weeks and months as safely as is possible. That will be even more difficult than we expected, given that the new variant of COVID does seem to transmit more easily than other strains of the virus. That's why, unfortunately, we are imposing such tough restrictions from Boxing Day onwards. It's also why the safest way for indoor Christmas Day celebrations this year is within your own household and in your own home. Please don't meet other people indoors if you can possibly avoid it. And it is why all of us, however hard it is, need to continue to stick to the current rules and guidelines, and that does include facts. So with an enormous dose of humility, Presiding Officer, let me remind you, and most importantly today, myself, of facts. Use face coverings. Avoid crowded places, clean your hands and surfaces regularly, keep 2 metres distant from people in other households, and self-isolate and get tested if you have symptoms. These actions will work against this new strain of the virus, and they are how, while the vaccination programme proceeds, we can continue to protect ourselves, our loved ones and our NHS. Let me take the opportunity, Presiding Officer, to wish you, everyone across the chamber and everyone watching, a healthy and peaceful Christmas, and I think we all hope a brighter and better 2021.
Thank you very much, First Minister. First Minister will now take questions. I would encourage all members who wish to ask a question to press their request to speak buttons, and I call on Ruth Davis.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. From midnight on Saturday, all of Scotland's non-essential businesses will be closed for a minimum of 3 weeks. Most understand why, but the news is still devastating. Today, we spoke to Ryan Hutchins, who runs a small sofa shop in Linwood. Here's what he told us. 90% of my customers are from outside Renfrewshire. I had only 2 customers in the last 3 weeks. My business is bleeding money to the point that I'm close to broke and have very little left to survive because of the lockdown. This next 3 weeks lockdown will cripple me if I don't get help. I have 2 children, one that lives with me full time. I have £754 in the bank with my rent due on January the 1st and other bills. Ryan can't survive until some unknown date in January without receiving grant support. So what can the First Minister tell him?
First Minister.
Firstly, I want Ryan and everybody else, and there are many of them in Ryan's position, to know how sorry I am for the situation we find ourselves in. If I thought there was another way to do this, I would grasp it in a heartbeat. Nobody wants to be in this position. That's true in Scotland, and it's true in the rest of the UK and in much of the rest of the world. Businesses that are required to close by law in level 4 areas, of course, are able to apply for Strategic Framework Business Fund support. Businesses that are required to close are eligible for a grant of up to £3,000. The grant level is dependent on rateable value, and a grant of £2,100, again depending on rateable value, is available for businesses that can remain open but are required to modify their operations by law. These grants are provided to eligible businesses for every 4 weeks of restrictions. But I want to repeat what I said earlier in the week. The Finance Secretary is reviewing what additional support we can make available to businesses, because we know that this extra period of disruption, and for many extra period of closure, will be very, very difficult to bear, even with the funding that is currently in place. And we will continue to do everything we can within, obviously, the confines of the resources that are available to us to help as far as we possibly can.